good in the hood, YouTube? This is Crazy Samurai 21 here, bringing another video. Today I'm bringing a video on Power Rangers Movie 2017. This video is going to be focused on something that was reviewed last week, towards the very end of the week, I would say over the weekend practically, regarding the Power Rangers movie that's coming out March of this year. So we finally got an official rating for the movie. Many people were very unclear. People were speculating either PG-13 or PG, something along those lines, and it is PG-13. And you may be wondering, why is this interesting? Why is this newsworthy? Well, let's just say this much. PG-13 rating basically tells you right away it's not going to be for your 5-year-old or your 3-year-old or your 2-year-old. It's definitely going to be for a more mature audience. Now, does that mean that a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old won't go and see it? Of course they might, but it still is interesting to note because certain parents are going to be more likely to skip this movie and when it comes to bringing their children and just go for the older fans that are more mature. And it is interesting to note that because as many people know, Power Rangers is always targeted towards children for the most part, and that's why a lot of the product is typically, you know, focused towards a younger audience. It's very rarely focused towards the older audience with better quality. And I'm not, and look, there's definitely a darker vibe, which many people will assume right away implied this is going to be a mature, much more higher rated movie as far as rating it, you know, PG-13 compared to rating it as a PG or a G movie. To me, I think that it's pretty interesting. I'm actually happy in a lot of ways, and I think that it's pretty special that they are doing that. Obviously, if this does well, that will be good in some ways, and it will bring it. It'll be something that an older audience will be able to appreciate. Because many of us fans who are, you know, older now look at this movie, and in some ways, it's kind of nice because if this is rated for an older audience, you know, the regular show is still targeted towards children, yet a lot of the audience is older, and people have said that, like, a lot of the audience is older, and yet they still target everything and they still make everything towards the younger audience, and yet a lot of us are older and we appreciate it from a different perspective. And so, you know, to us it's sort of like we kind of wish for that older kind of appeal, which is why a lot of us watch Super Sentai, the Japanese show, because it has a more mature it has more mature stories that the Power Rangers is based off of. But this is it's a nice thing for an American audience because we don't really get any of that. You know, that's why a lot of times when the fan movies for the franchise are made, they're always done in a more mature way rather than making them, you know, very juvenile like they were always marketed to be. So it's kind of nice for us because we actually have something that we can say, oh, this is for an older audience. Now, obviously, don't get me wrong, it could be the worst movie ever, but I think that it's important to note that that it's going to be PG-13. In my opinion, I think that that's good to note, and you know, in some ways it might decrease certain aspects of their audience, but the thing is that, as I just said, a lot of their audience is older. I'm not saying they're all, you know, 80 or 60 or so, but there's plenty of people that are like in their 30s, 40s, 20s, you know, higher 10s or so, you know, some in their 50s or so. It does happen. Believe me, when I go to conventions, I see people that are older that are watching this stuff, whether it be with their kids or whether it be that they are fans that grew up with the franchise. And you know, the franchise is now about 24, is almost 24 years old practically, and that means that, you know, think about how old the oldest kids were probably, you know, and even the older teens were when they were watching this. You know, they were probably in their 40s or their 50s at most. So considering that, that means over time the audience will have a really older and a really younger appeal. So that's why it's nice to see that they're doing it with this movie. Obviously, if they choose to create a younger a version that's more of a PG version, and then one that's a PG-13. That could be a different story, but overall it seems like they're going for that PG-13 rating, which is going to be very interesting, and it should be kind of cool to see how that works out. And if the movie does well, then that's great, and hopefully it will make us, hopefully sequels will come out that will continue that franchise and, you know, help grow the fan base even further. That is what a lot of people are hoping for, and that's what I'm hoping for, is that if this does well, this will spawn future sequels and create an audience that will appreciate that's not just the children and not just the fans that have been into it forever, but also a newer audience that's focused towards the movie or movie and the show. You know, that's kind of what I want to see. So I'm glad that PG-13 rating is a thing. I do want to see what they're going to do with this movie more and more. So obviously, as many people know, we've only gotten that teaser trailer, you know, a while ago now, and everyone's kind of wondering, when are we going to get the next trailer? You know, some people thought maybe the end of the month. Could happen. Maybe next month. Definitely could happen. It's very unclear. You know, there's so many different variables. People are just sort of like, why haven't we got it? I don't know exactly. You know, there's a couple of events that are still coming up in the next 2 months or so that could lead to them revealing it. Maybe they'll do something to promote the new Power Rangers Ninja Steel show that's coming out, you know, not this week, but the following week. Maybe alongside it, they'll promote the movie with a trailer. It could also be something that they do at Toy Fair when they have the Toy Fair in New York. They might be doing something along those lines where they showcase new merchandise coming out for both Ninja Steel, the movie, Legacy line, and maybe they'll also throw in a teaser there. Definitely a possibility. As far as any other opportunities, I don't really know. The CS 2017 convention just ended a day or so ago. So at this point, there's really nothing else that I can think of other than Toy Fair, where they would probably try to promote some other product related to the movie. But we'll have to wait and see. I can't think of any other conventions that are big enough where they would do that as well. But yeah, so it's very good. A lot of products coming out. There was the retro figures that are coming out that they're doing with the whole entire flip head thing, and maybe they'll do some other variations. But yeah, it's nice because they are looking to do typical things and do things that are for the older audience. And I think that you know, a lot of people don't really talk about the retro figures, the ones that had the flip heads, but in a lot of ways I think that kind of gave a cue in some ways to that idea that they are trying to appeal to that older audience, which is so nice, and that's so appreciative of the fan base. And I think that a lot of us should, you know, really respect Lionsgate in some ways. Look, I'm not saying I think Lionsgate always, like, I have to understand this, Lionsgate is very involved in this, and as much as people are really like hating on Lionsgate for what they're doing to it, I still have some sense of respect for some of the ideas, because as bad as some of the things are, there are still some positives to what they have been doing with this movie, and I want to give them the respect where they deserve it and treat them as such, because not everything they're doing is bad. There are things that are good, that are worthwhile, and I think that people should respect the good and you know, obviously have their own opinions about the bad, but at the same time, in my opinion, I don't want to, like, you know, say, oh, this is awful until I actually see it, as many people are saying, and I am the same way. I don't want to say that, because it could be great, it could be the worst thing ever. Obviously, it's very concerning that we haven't gotten any information since like November or October. I'm forgetting now when it was released, but yeah, I do want to know more. I'm sure plenty of you guys want to know more, so I'd love to know your guys' opinions about the PG-13 rating. Is this good? Is this bad? Were you expecting this? Did you not expect this? How do you think this is going to work now? Do you think that this is going to encourage more viewers? Do you think that this will be a problem for getting a lot of people to view this movie? What is your feelings about it? Do you think that it won't matter? How are you thinking this is going? Do you like that it's that rating? Do you think that they could have gone for a younger rating or even an older rating? Leave your comments below. I'd love to know your guys' opinions about the rating. Personally, I think it's fine. I think that it could be very cool if they do it well, and if it's successful, then that's great. But leave your comments below. Tell me what you guys think and any other things you guys feel about this. See you guys in the next video. Until then, guys, I'm Crazy Santa 21. Check my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Until then, guys, that's about it for me. And goodbye.